My name is Margaret Ann Windsor. Peggy Ann Childers is Dempsey Childers. The name was given me when I was kidnapped in 1941 from Buckingham Palace by my Uncle George VI. Roosevelt, the President, Joseph Kennedy, the Ambassador, and members of the New World Order, which is the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, etc. They took out my father, King Edward VIII, and put a 99-year seal on an illegal transfer of power. And a double married Wallace Simpson. That wasn't even my father. My father was married to my mom, American Claudia Ruth O'Keefe Windsor. That being said, I wrote a book, 77, 78, about mind control and magnetic healing, how you could cure illnesses and create them through imagery, the belief system in it, do you believe, psychosomatics, so that's involved in it, but you can create an illness and cure it, and that tells you they could do it since early 30s during the Tesla. But the other, so you don't need Obamacare or any of this, but then your economy thrives on all its medical needs. So the book dealt with programming people, modified behavior. This is back when I wrote it, started telling it was the early 70s, wrote the book in 77, 78. I lived at Moonraker Apartments. Moonraker is associated with 007 Roger Moore. The title of the book was A License to Kill, MD. Of course, that's 007 with Timothy Dalton, which came a couple of years later after I did the book. I got a letter from the U.S. Attorney June the 23rd, which is my father's birthday. Of course, this is 79. But April Fool Day of 80, I was still full of antifreeze and should have died. Instead, hell broke loose for a long time, and I was illegally transported back to Huntsville, Alabama, the Space Center there, and worked for the District Attorney Simpson. Simpson is associated with my father was supposed to have abdicated and became the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. He was supposed to have married Simpson. The next job I had was for Doyle Duke and the Golden Triangle. That was owned by CIA. Duke as in the Duke of Windsor. And at the time, in November of 80, when I worked at the DA's office, is when John Lennon was shot and killed. He's British. I'm British. I didn't know it at the time, or I've been told that subconsciously I did. I always knew. Anyway, Mark David Chapman shot him. Mark is the name of my son that's heir after me. David was my dad's name, King Edward VIII. He was called David. And Chapman is taken the C from Childers. By the way, the Roanoke Times printed a piece of the paper a few years back showing that Mark David Chapman had lived here briefly. So you're getting into things that get a little, you wonder who's in charge of all this. Not just that one incident. But I threw that one in because he actually lived here. And anyway, in Roanoke. Now then, I wanted to go back to Neil Entwistle. That was a mind control murder. And when I say it, I don't just go and pick them out. There's a lot of murders that happen that may have been, and I don't know it. But they don't fit in the pattern. I don't know. That a lot of murders happen. It just happened. But the ones I have told about have been done with mind control and in the patterns. Now, Neil Entwistle, was found guilty of killing his wife and daughter. He's serving life in a Boston jail. A pill was not given him. So he's been through hell. He was possibly with British intelligence. I'm not sure. I think I read an article where it was stated he might have been. He's paying for a crime he didn't commit. So have a lot of Brits. Brits were trying to hold on to what was theirs. Gosh, can you blame them? Um, and there's a lot to be said that I hope it's all told, and people can be very proud of their military, the British military, because I don't know how they hung in there. I really don't, against all odds. Um, I wanted to say that there was another one. I mean, there's been a lot over the span of time when I was made aware and started doing the book. That's a long time since the early 70s. So you can see how advanced technology has become with it all. But now I'm tired at the end of the day, and I may have to just redo this because I don't read from a script. It's from what I've lived and everything. I did want to say this, yes. The au pair in Boston that was tried for shaken baby syndrome. She worked as nanny or au pair to doctors, husband-wife team. She was tried and found not guilty. She did get to go home to the UK and worked for a group of attorneys there. But there's been a lot of Brits that died, Germans. I guess the other thing I wanted to say here was I'm going to name some names here that know all about this. And maybe this man is a good man, David Edwards. He's a Virginia state senator. He knows all about it. There's Bob Goodlatte, who was over the Agriculture Committee. He's a U.S. congressman from Virginia, right here in Roanoke. I've been in their offices. Believe me, they know. I'm not trying to say they're good or bad. I think probably we're pretty good. But it's confusing to me. All this can go on, and people go on with their lives while I'm telling all this, and it's like shoving me in the corner and telling me to shut up or else. Goodlatte was over the agriculture and forestry that helped do so much of this when I was running to the mountains and jailed and banned from the forest and all this stuff going on. You don't get the true picture at all, overall picture. You get crap of lies of a lady trying to live against all odds and tell what's being done to the people by their government here, and they don't want to hear it. Anyway, Bob Goodlatte was over the agriculture. That's food stamps. That's also forestry law enforcement and all that. A big agency. Now he's over, I believe he's over, I'm correct, the judicial up there now. So these people know about all this, and yet it's kept hush-hush. Media won't print it. Now then, so that I don't veer away too much, I wanted to mention Moonraker Apartments, where I did the book. They had security there. You couldn't get in or out without going through security. I went to the laundry room one day, and there's two female in uniform, British. They look like they could take on anybody. And they were talking to me. They came over and talked to me. And I said, "Oh, you're Aussies." And I remember she almost seemed offended, and I liked that about her. She said, "Glad you can tell the difference." But she meant it like, well, she's Brit too. Now, I don't know how much the attitudes have changed over time with all the influx of people moving in there and more games being played, but they're still Brits. Very much so, I hope. I don't know if I said this, but when I worked at Lockheed, or went back to school because I'd written the book, couldn't get jobs anymore, and I had good job skills, 93 words a minute with 3 errors and so forth and so on. But I went to a computer training program, 9 months, and it was held at Lockheed Marietta in Marietta, Georgia. The office next to where I went to school, well, it was the same buildings right next to me, were two Aussies. And they were in the British military. And they would come into the break room and talk. and they told me that we come to take back what's ours. And they were looking at me, and they meant me. They also, I hope I'm not being redundant here this late at night, okay? Um, they also told other things, but the one thing was buying those big transport planes, cargo planes. So the British have had to, I don't know how they've lived, do everything the Americans demanded of them, um, have everything stolen from them, die for the Americans, and the Americans are our friends. I don't think so. What do you think? I'm sitting here. I am who I say I am. I've been tortured to death, and my kids. Um, would you call somebody that did that to you your friend? Um, Oliver Jones, I wanted to mention that because this is just part of what went on. This is in about 80, after the antifreeze was put in. Me and I worked for worked for Fred Simpson, the DA, and then Doyle Duke. I was trying to get somebody to help with it all. Ronnie Flippo was head of the aerospace, well, what would you say, the space program. Um, his house got bombed. I think he was a decent guy in Alabama. But anyway, I contacted Bob Oliver Jones, is who came from D.C., flew down, and to the office in Huntsville and asked could he take me, and I said, well, of course. Um, he was general office manager, but he was related to Congressman Bob Jones. I don't know if Bob Jones was still alive then, but anyway, he'd take me. It was the office there. I believe it's in Ronnie Flippo's office, though, in Huntsville. Taped it, and he said to me, he says, this is something I bet you don't know. He said, Ann, and I'm not going to call her Princess Ann, the guy that shot the gun at her, it was during a horse something. I can't remember. It was that, you can check the timeline. The gun wasn't loaded. It had blanks. He says, no, either few people know that or hardly anyone. Wasn't public knowledge. Now, I don't know what else to put here. I've told about being able to create illnesses and cure them, and you wouldn't need all the equipment and all the Obamacare and all the, in other words, what's happened to all the funding to, like a Jerry Lewis, where'd all that money go? Not that he took it, I don't mean that, but why? And all these fundraisers and the breast cancer and all this, do people think there's been no progress? The only progress is you've got so much equipment. You've got colleges getting grants they depend on. I mean, ask yourself, you would think with all this money pouring in, why not a cure here or there? And the joke of it all is, I guess it's a joke. Nobody wants to hear me, and I've had names and everything. You don't need it. You can do it through healing yourself. Now then, you've got to have a little bit more than that, but you can create an illness and you can cure it, and you wouldn't need any of this crap. So what they've done is you wouldn't need your drug, your labs, your doctors, your hospital, your equipment, all this. What they've got is a new world order in place. So you can think for yourself there what really is happening. I don't know. Tomorrow, does it just go back to normal? I don't know.